Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Mike.
And we're back with horrible ways to die.
And we're very excited about it.
Well, I am.
We're back with our second part of our ranking martyrdoms.
Yep. Number 5. Jess?
We have being strangled, or I also put on there being hung, because if they don't strangle you correctly and you essentially get internally beheaded, you're getting, you know...
Yes.
If they do it right, you should break your neck. But if they don't, you'll...
Yes, effectively, this is any form in which you are asphyxiated through the use of a ligature. Something tied around your neck.
Though we will also accept the use of manual.
Yes. Manual strangulation does count as a strangulation nonetheless.
Not the worst, only in that it doesn't take that long for a human being to pass out. It's going to be an awful time, but I don't fear strangulation the way that I do being, burned alive.
Yeah, it does take a long time, according to my understanding, to strangle someone to death.
But how long does it take to strangle them to unconsciousness?
But they lose consciousness long before they get there.
And that's the only point. That's the point at which I stop caring.
Yeah, I mean, if my brain is no longer perceiving anymore, I'm not all that worried about, I mean, there are a few things that come in place down the line where I'd prefer you just finish the job and didn't move on to the next step, kind of a thing. But
that's the worst part. Sometimes they're multi-step.
Yeah.
Oof. All right. So our next form, this one I just find fascinating. This is from an etymological point of view.
It is one of his favorite words.
Defenestration. Or being thrown to death.
Yes, technically, we didn't have a saint who was martyred by being thrown out a window, but we did have them being thrown off of things and stuff. So
thrown off of a roof, thrown off of a cliff, thrown off of the top of a church. I just love the fact that English has a word for being thrown out of a window. We couldn't just write thrown out of a window. No, the defenestration of Prague. First and second. Oh.
Yes. Oh. Yes, technically defenestration does refer, strictly speaking, to being thrown out of a window.
But here we mean anytime you're thrown from a great height.
But in the case of martyrdoms, we're going to use this anytime you are being thrown from height. So like on an episode I believe already came out where we had a saint who was martyred by having been thrown off of their roof.
And here, of course, height is the crucial consideration.
It is.
I mean, if you had, like, the windows we had in elementary school, if we knew that was a word, we would do that just randomly to people, because it would be a joke. They were, like, 2 feet off the ground,
I personally have a range of heights that I believe starts at about 20 feet up.
Okay.
And continues on to somewhere around, I want to say like 600 feet up.
600 is good. You're almost certainly dead.
Yes. Well, see, that's really the thing. I call it the no-fall zone, right? I have no problem with heights, except for when it's in that zone. And the reason for it is, if I'm below that zone and I fall, I may injure myself. But it's going to be minor enough that I'm going to go for a trip to the emergency room, maybe, and have a walking cast and
1 in a million shot of death.
Right.
You have to fall just right on your head.
I'm probably going to be in and out of the hospital within 24 hours. Above that height, if I fall, it's likely that I will reach terminal speed. And as long as I am not landing on anything that is not hard enough, I may only just recognize the instant of that swift stop at the end.
Yeah, instantaneous death.
Pretty much gone. If I feel any pain, it is but a flash of light, and then it's gone.
But in between.
But in between there, you get into the range of serious injury.
I might fall and you'll be mortally wounded, but take a really long time to die.
It might be mortally wounded, take a really long time to die, or might be severely injured and take a really long time to heal. The fall where you sort of look at it and think, I might survive this, and that's not good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, defenestration. Fun word, not fun martyrdom.
No.
Next.
Oh, next. This one's fun.
No, there's only one S in that.
Oh.
Cake or death.
Sorry, that is not cake or death. This one is left in the desert. And for our left in the desert category, we are including all cases of exposure.
Oh.
So the person who is set adrift on a boat, on a life raft in the middle of the sea, that we're going to call that, we're going to equate that with left in the desert, because they're just going to bake and dehydrate to death. Mm-hmm. Also, being thrown out. If we found somebody who is just sort of like thrown out into the wilds of Siberia, you know.
Well, there was a case of Saint Maurice and the Theban Legion, where they all converted to Christianity and refused to sacrifice to the emperor.
Yes.
So they're put out on the ice to freeze to death.
Yeah.
Ew.
The same ice that they were previously putting people out on to freeze to death.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the irony. Ugh.
So left in the desert is not a fun way to go.
Mm-mm.
All right. The next one, we have one that we had so many questions about, and I still have no answers to. So
that's the beauty of the lesser known saints. There's so little information.
The martyrdom of vat of molten lead.
And okay, so the questions here are legion. Is this large enough vat for you to be dunked in entirely? Is it immersion in molten lead?
Yeah, see that? Because that really is, in my mind, the only question to be asked.
Or
am I going in over my head, or are you just putting me part of the way?
Or are they pouring like molten lead down your throat? That
one's going to take a long time. I mean, that might be one of those ones where it hurts, where it hurts so bad you just black out and you don't ever wake up.
It's going to kill you quick, but it's really going to hurt before it does. So I don't know what kind of vat we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And it just the forcing you to drink a relatively small amount of molten lead, unfortunately, strikes me as just generally more pragmatic than having a dunking vat. Even though that's, relatively quick death. Ugh. This is not like the end of Terminator 2, kids. Just
no.
You don't want the molten lead.
No, there is no thumbs up going into the vat of molten lead.
Mm. And so now we go to a very, very biblical death.
Mm-hmm.
Being stoned to death. The most prominent example of this being, of course, St. Stephen, who, as he was being stoned to death, had time enough to emulate our Lord in begging that this sin of stoning him to death not be held against those who were stoning him to death.
Yeah, this is one where definitely goes on my low on my list, because you are going to experience that martyrdom.
Well, and an additional negative of stoning to death is, as St. Stephen observed, the harm that it's going to do to whatever group of people are stoning you to death. Like, there's, of course,
because they're taking an act. They're as opposed to somebody who's just kind of sort of like lower him in. It's not. It's typically not one person who's doing the deed. It's a whole bunch of people who are all actively participating.
And instead of being an executioner type, it's just the crowd, the mob.
And you can't half-heartedly stone someone.
Oh, you can. That makes it worse.
but I'm just saying, it's not going to be successful if you're doing it half-hearted. Yeah. So whereas you might have an executioner who's become emotionally disconnected from what they're doing. This is my job, and I do my job. This is a group of people who all really, really hate you and want you dead, and are so badly so that they are willing to take an active part in making that dead happen.
Even if only for a few moments that they might regret later. So, stoning, not good.
No. Go down below. Start leaving some thoughts about martyrdoms in the comments.
How do you want to be martyred?
How do you want to go? How much worse do you think this list can get? Did we put all the really bad ones up front? While you're down there, hit the like, share, subscribe button, the bell next to it. And remember, as always, until next time, to live your faith.
Love your faith.
Share that love.